Good morning and welcome to Resolutions for Recovery. A very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all. And today is really a great day for us. So we have the youth of today, and this is who we should all be listening to because they, you know, young people know that drugs and alcohol are bad, but we're going to hear why maybe some kids gravitate towards, and what can we do to meet them where they are. Not what adults think that we should do to meet them where they are, what the youth think that we should meet them where they are. So, I've been practicing, and we have Paige, Isabella, Claudia, and Christina. And Christina is a middle schooler, so I really can't wait to hear from Christina. Claudia is a second-year college student, and thank you so much for coming back.
Of course.
Claudia served on the Youth Council for Lindy Cares. So these are all Lori Novello's. See, Lori, I didn't forget you. Shout out from Lindy Cares. And Christina and, Isabella and Paige are the current council.
Yes.
So, from your perspective, and I only want to know your perspective, not anything else. Do kids know that drugs and alcohol are bad?
Yes, I would say that kids, especially kids of our age, do know that drugs and alcohol are bad, but some of them have a difficult time understanding why, or understanding like how to make the decision of when they're pressured with it with their peers, so peer pressure, and when they're surrounded with it, especially in the high school and even in the middle school. It's very difficult now to say no when you're not educated on the harmfulness of drugs and alcohol. It's one thing to just be told it's bad. Another
I think it's also just difficult from peer pressure alone to say no, right?
Yeah, they definitely know it's something they shouldn't be doing, but
Right.
they're not really educated on like the extent of what goes into like intaking something into their body.
Still, that's going to be, but when you're with all your friends and everybody's doing something,
Yeah.
whether you know it or you don't know it, you may make that decision just to fit in, because fitting in high school and middle school, right, is something really important.
Yeah.
Even in college, even while you're adulting, you know. But we have to build those muscles to be able to say, no, I'll still be your friend, but well, you know, I'm not criticizing you. Don't criticize me. So that could be one thing. So what do you hear? Because now, so we're gonna let me shift for a second. I'm going to hear from the oldest and then the youngest. So you're a second-year college student now.
Mm-hmm.
How has your viewpoints on maybe going to parties and different things, has anything changed since you left high school?
I would say so. I think when I was growing up, the pressure to do what my friends were doing was higher in high school, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough to meet a good group of people when I went to college, and if I don't want to do something, I don't have to, but I know other college kids aren't that lucky, and they are in a situation where, you know, they want to fit in, they want to be with those cool people, and they make the bad decisions. I definitely think it's gotten better, but I can't lie and say it's not still a problem, because it definitely is.
And Christina, talk to me about middle school. So what grade are you in?
I'm in 7th.
So you are going to be 14 or 13?
I'm going to be 13.
You're going to be 13. So, you know, this is something so dramatically important now, is because I know that when I talk to people that are in their 20s and they're actually in treatment for, you know, overusing drugs, they started when they were even younger than you. So talk to me about what's going on in your school.
In my school, kids brag about vaping and stuff like that. They believe that it's cool, and sometimes their friends want to be like them, so they do the same thing. And maybe they're not even doing it, but they just do it so people think that they are. And it's dangerous because some people actually decide to do it because they think that someone else is doing it and they want to be like that person. And that person that's actually doing it is putting their health in jeopardy, and then the other person is perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you see any other drug use in 7th grade or 6th grade?
No, I've only seen people talk about drinking,
Okay.
mostly them being 8th graders, and they want to be like their parents and stuff. Because when they see their parents drinking and stuff, they want to do it. Also, they want to seem adult and not the age that they are.
So I've often spoken about how you come home to your house, right? And if mom and dad say, leave me alone, I'm going to have a drink, right? I'm going to have a glass of wine, I'm going to have a beer, I had a rough day. That when you come home from school and you've had a rough day, who would you like to emulate, right? Your mom and dad, because they're telling you, I had a rough day and this is going to help me eliminate my rough day. So make it seem okay. Make it seem like a solution to a problem instead of saying, hey, let's go for a walk, let's go watch a movie, let's eat ice cream, right? There's a lot of other things that we can do to make things okay. What do you do? So you're obviously, so are you 21 yet?
No, I'm 19 right now.
So you're 19, so you're not even of the age of consent to really drink alcohol legally. Where do you go to school, first off? Can we say that?
It's a little complicated process. I went to University of New Haven. I'm currently transferring to Stony Brook University.
Okay, so you're moving back home?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so in your dorm, a lot of big parties?
I mean, not necessarily in the dorm, but there are definitely parties around the school happening, and if you want to basically keep the friends that you have, you gotta go and you gotta be with them, sociable, and again, I never felt the pressure to do maybe what they were doing, but to go out with them, have fun with your friends, it is something, something you want to do.
Do they give you a hard time if you say no?
No, if it's a joke, yeah, they'll be like, oh, come on, let's whatever. But if I really don't feel like it, they'll never make me go out. But I can't say the same for other people that I know at school. Okay. Other people that I've spoken to do feel like they need to go out, or their friends aren't going to like them anymore. They're going to think they're not cool. They're going to end up not inviting them, and it's that huge weight on their shoulders.
It's a big weight.
Yeah, definitely a weight I wouldn't want to carry. But
no, but unfortunately, you're not.
Yeah.
And that sometimes really just goes to your own human nature, right? Some people can be, I don't want to use the word strong enough, I want to say confident enough to say no and be okay whether they are liked by that group or not liked by that group. And some, too many people probably really struggle with that. So as a youth council right now, what are you working on?
One of the main things that we're actually preparing for right now is a conference that we have at Shelter Island. So that's happening Martin Luther King weekend in January.
Yes, that's with my good friend Kim Laube, and that's the Teen Institute. Yeah. And that's part of the HUGS program.
Yeah, so Isabel and myself are actually being student leaders this year.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a lot of work leading up to it. We've had our own leader training conference that we're preparing, and we also get to speak to the middle schoolers, so it's reaching out beyond just teens in high school. So it's really, really exciting. And the work that we do there is very important to our coalition.
Yes. Well, the work that you do there is quite incredible. I've done the weekend, and it's life-changing. It was life-changing for me. Yeah. Never mind being able to go as an adolescent 4 times a year to that conference, and I sponsor kids to do that all the time. And I think that should just be a mandatory kind of thing for every school district on Long Island to create the student leaders.
The January weekend last year, usually the winter ones, the winter weekends, you have to go up with a coalition, and you come up with a plan to solve, target something in your school that you want to try to solve. So last year we did vape, and we created a vaping policy change in our school, because usually we try to get they get suspended if they get found with a vape or something, and we wanted to change that and try to get some education in, so then they know what they're putting into their bodies, and that's what we implemented last year.
Excellent. Did it change how many kids vape in the school?
I think we have the data for it. Maybe I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 kids so far, and I think that's more than enough, like so far. But like we're trying to see more people.
Do you see the other side of that? So it's been reported in other school districts when kids get their apparatus seized, parents come up and demand that they give that back, that it's no big deal, that just give it back to them or I'm just going to buy another one. So how do we solve that problem from your perspective?
Well, something we also came up with along like with the plan that we made was to not only educate the kids, but for them to bring their parents and also like educate the staff of each school. So like in our district, like even the elementary schools, like who knows, but also the middle school and especially the high school, because most parents and kids and staff, they're like oblivious to it, so they don't really know.
It's very interesting that these stores are allowed to pop up wherever also, so we really do need to target the zoning boards for, you know, Town of Babylon, where you guys are, right? We need to target that and talk to elected officials about changing where vape stores should they be, because it's always about money. So when something comes along that makes money, it's going to be targeted to the most susceptible, which is always going to be children first.
Yeah.
So if I'm a parent and my child gets caught, is it mandatory that I do the education?
Yeah, I think it's instead of suspension.
It's like I believe what it's an option. So in replace of the suspension, like the punishment they would originally receive, they can choose to go to, I think it's a series of classes. Where they learn about vaping and other like electronic smoking devices, and the parent can attend with them. Like that's encouraged that the parent goes with the student. So now like a lot of people will say like, oh, my mom doesn't even know what it is. Like my dad like doesn't know, like he thinks it's just water vapor. So that's why they get away with it. But if the parent is going alongside the student and they don't already know it's in it, this might be changing how it's looked at home and their accessibility to it.
Unfortunately, parents also keep their heads buried in the sand and they say, oh, it's just that liquid flavored, and it's not. It's not. So they could be dabbing, they could be doing 100 other things with their, and Juul, I don't know if you saw, Juul's employees were paid. They got bonuses of up to $1 million this year. So we talk about a crazy, right, new thing happening.
And it's really sad because it's really just about like industry and the money, and like
it's always about the money. Not
only like target kids and adolescents because they're more like vulnerable to it, but also they can like easily lie on the labels and that because it's not like, I think it's not like USDA approved or something yet up until like maybe next year, or they keep pushing the date back.
I don't know if it'll ever be, so it's not it's FDA approved.
Oh right, yes.
So
FDA.
They are finding out more and more. So we are very quick to allow something to happen before doing really great studies. So same thing in New York State now. Governor Cuomo is going to legalize recreational marijuana use. So how do you feel about that, Christina?
I think that it shouldn't be that way. Like the marijuana tablets where they just extract the good nutrients from it. I think that's good because it could cure a lot of things, but then making the actual marijuana legal is very dangerous because it'll become like alcohol, which is a big problem also.
Yeah, alcohol's the biggest problem in the United States still. Bigger than the heroin opiate problem, right? So it still kills the most people. So you're right, CBD oil, or when they pull out the THC from marijuana, that has a lot of good uses. Not as great uses as they thought 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when they thought that it was going to really create some solutions to some medical problems, but it still has a use. So how do you feel about, what's the message that it sends to high school students or college students?
Okay. Things like that are okay. We were just talking about like the juuling thing, and I think it really like took wind my when I first started college freshman year, I hadn't really like paid attention to it, and then all of a sudden, all of my friends have these things, and they can't go anywhere without them. And my one roommate literally confiscated them at one point, and like they would try to come in for like a hit at least once a day. And you know, you're 19, 18, you already have like a nicotine addiction. It's insane.
Yes.
And up until that point, a lot of people that I'd spoken to didn't get the craze about cigarettes. Like no one had like any interest in it. They didn't want to do it. And I thought, you know, we're finally overcoming that need to smoke cigarettes to be cool. And then these come out, and kids are pretty much back where we were. We're back with nicotine addiction, and it's insane.
It's
and
insane.
It happens so quick, and you don't even see it coming.
Because the nicotine, it's so addictive. So addictive. Ask anybody that's quit smoking or tried to quit smoking. So how do you, what's your thoughts going forward with your youth council to combat, because it's going to be legal anyway, what's the big deal, it's only pot?
The biggest thing that we focus on is educating people, because we say like knowledge is power, and we try to create an environment, like a friendly environment. Like we always talk about how when we go to Hugs, like it's like we never want to leave because it's like a friendly environment, but like we want to create that within our like youth council into the school, so that kids can be open about not only learning but educating others about like the things like recreational marijuana even.
But do you, when you are doing any prevention messages, do you have kids in your school that say pot's not a big deal?
We had one time we did like a vape presentation to each like phys ed class. So we presented basically to the entire school, and there were people who didn't really pay attention, but there were people who really learned a lot from it. And I think we definitely like changed their perspective on some things. And even like one person handed in their, like, I think it was their vape or their Juul into us, just because they said that they like learned something new from it and they didn't want to do it anymore.
You know what? And that made it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
You're not going to change everybody, but if you change one, you've done a really good job, because that one will change others. But I know, so phys ed is a great place to start. So I don't know if Kim Laube ever taught you that one night of partying negates 2 weeks of peak performance training.
Yeah.
So from an athletic point of view, and kids, right, everything is to the, and that's really parents too. Right? They bring them, you're going to play baseball, you're going to play it 12 months out of the year, I'm bringing you to batting practice, pitching practice, you know, you're going to, and then they're so, they let down the other side of it so easy, right? Oh, they're doing great, they're doing well in school, they're doing their sport, they can go out and party, and parents are really still very naive to the fact nobody wakes up and decides to be addicted to anything. My son didn't wake up at 15 years old and say, you know what, I think I'll be a heroin addict and kill myself at the age of 21. And he started with either a cigarette or a beer or a joint that ignited his substance use in his brain, that turned on that disease. So we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah, it's always dangerous, the mentality of the, oh, it'll never happen to me. Like, you never know if you have a predisposition or some other thing that will cause you to have an addiction. And it's very dangerous to, like, constantly think that, like, it's not going to happen to you, because everybody's open to that risk.
Everybody's, out of the 5 of us, one of us would have that problem. That's pretty crazy, just out of the 5 of us. But that's the odds, especially in adolescence. I know they say it's the odds are higher. For me, I don't believe that in adolescence. I think your odds go up dramatically, because you've learned, right, at Hugs, that your brain is not developed, hardwired till the age of 25. So we really need to do some things. Tell me about, because I spoke this year at your presentation. What was your feedback from those 2 assemblies?
From the Eyes Wide Open presentation?
Now, how many kids did we reach in those 2? So we can give the audience some numbers.
Because we reached the entire school, it's 2,000 students in total.
Okay.
So for like there was one presentation where it was the underclassmen.
Yes.
And then the upperclassmen. So it was like 1,000 for each presentation, essentially. So that's reaching the entire student base. And I think that those presentations always end up being effective because they're student run. So as much as we have guest speakers, it's not a teacher standing up there talking to students about something. That's one of our main things. We always want to be youth empowered and youth led, because we want to make sure that the youth feel like they have a voice and they know that it's very important to voice their opinions and to take part in things like this, where we can build a community where they're safe. And I think Eyes Wide Open is almost like reiterating that. It's emphasizing that there are students who are part of a community where you don't have to feel pressured to do these things. And if that grows, I feel like less and less students will feel obligated to do things like that. And that Eyes Wide Open presentation literally opens eyes, because it shows people the true risks. It shows what happens beyond the party and beyond the peer pressure and looking cool. It goes much further than that, especially when you're we used a video. I forget what the brand was that the video was from, but it was showing a young boy who was either high school or college, and that probably touched home with a lot of the students, because that's their age, and that's like the risks that they're going to be facing.
You know, unfortunately, at the end of the 2 presentations, I spoke to a lot of your classmates, and they unfortunately are living substance use with their parents, with other people in their family. So, you know, adults always only think about it from a parent's point of view, that their child has a problem. There's way too many kids that come to school carrying a really heavy burden of substance use in their own family, that their parents are affected by that, and or an older brother or sister or whoever that may be, grandparents, whoever, and that it's not okay, you know, because when you're growing up in an alcoholic or, you know, a home affected by substance use, you start to think that all families, when you're a kid, right, you're going to think that all families run like this.
Yeah.
So it's very emotional for them, because they don't feel like they can share that. Because what's parents going to say? What happens in this house stays in this house. So you're always as sick as your secrets. So did you find that more kids came in and needed, you know, to speak to maybe counselors? Because I know that you have a counselor right in the school, and unfortunately there were a lot of kids that didn't even know that she was there.
There were a couple of students, classmates of mine, that I talked to that were talking about how, like, they really enjoy the presentation, and this is like seniors who have seen it for all 3 years, and they said that this year especially they really enjoyed both the guest speakers and the presentation itself. And just hearing that is like one of like our goals, is to reach people who maybe haven't been reached before, and these are people who, like, trying not to stereotype, who you would see at a party or something like that, like people who normally would go to the presentation and sit through it on their phone and not pay attention to much of it. So to hear even that, whether or not they do go to a counselor or believe that they have a problem with things that they're doing, like, to hear that a presentation was able to reach them.
Well, you planted a seed, and once the seed's planted, it can't be unsaid, unheard, or unseen. So as they travel through life, that will flash back. So you know, that's why it's so important in the middle school to have those presentations. Do we do anything do you go to the middle school and do other presentations?
Yeah, we did do a presentation with the Lindy Cares Coalition in middle school about medicine safety. Okay. So recognizing like household medicines or prescription medicines, and like knowing what doses to take, and always being with a parent and having them help you out. And then we also went to the school to talk about our vape presentation that we went to the high school, and I believed we set up a meeting, I'm not sure exactly for when, but to talk to the administration of the school and essentially give them our presentation, so that they're going to be aware and be able to maybe recognize somebody who's using some sort of substance.
So it's interesting, because do parents think oh no, not my Christina, not my 12-year-old, no, they're never going to do that. And that's unfortunately what happens, right? Because when I speak to parents, oh no, they're much too young to hear about that. Are you much too young to hear about drugs and alcohol, Christina? Yeah. Even when you were 10, I would venture to say that you knew more than what people gave you credit for knowing. So we live in a world, right, with social media and access to probably way too much information at a young age that cannot be processed. At University of New Haven, do they have sober dorms?
No, yeah, of course, of course.
Oh, okay.
There's dry buildings, so that's buildings where obviously no alcohol, no one's supposed to be legal. I think that school, they do a really good job of like more of the safety of it, because kids drinking, it's hard to get every kid on a campus to never drink, but they were really good about giving us safer options. They do a lot of things on campus, so there's other outlets to have a good time. We had there was a whole mini golf thing set up on the campus at one point, and kids went and did that instead of going out and doing, God knows what. And I think, at least when I was doing Lindy Cares 2 years back, that was at least my big thing. I feel like when kids direct their attention towards drugs and alcohol, it's not about them enjoying doing that thing. It's more they're trying to get over their parents getting a divorce, or not being close with their parents, or a breakup, or whatever it is. And it's always to mask some kind of insecurity, I think, and to give them other outlets and other things to do in place of going out and drinking and getting into God knows what, and instead a movie night with your friends, or
having the availability to a place to go to connect with other people.
Yeah.
Always is, and I know when I talk to other kids, very interesting. Well, I would talk to my mom and dad, but they're always on their phone. So, wow.
Yeah.
But parents don't want to hear that side of it a lot of times. Don't tell me what to do, because I'm the parent.
Yeah.
But parents need to hear these things. So why can't we educate them, right, on what else can we do at home? What can you do in your neighborhoods to go back to those kind of simpler times is really, but that's the perfect example. So having the school open so that maybe kids on a Friday night, they just want a place to go and be with other kids and be silly and have fun, right?
And they don't need to use drugs or alcohol.
And they don't need to use drugs or alcohol.
And I think more kids just need to see that. My senior year, we did the True Colors run, and they continued that this past year. And I remember it just being such a fun day. It was a beautiful day. Everyone was out, the whole town. And it was just a really nice and beautiful day, just the whole community coming together.
You see that a half an hour went by already? We're going to be right back after this message. Went so fast. Yeah.
One, two, three. Long before my dream of playing professional football became real, addiction impacted my family and nearly destroyed it. As a New Yorker, I can tell you that all our communities are being hurt by addiction. New York State is leading the fight in combating addiction, providing help and treatment regardless of your ability to pay. For more information, visit combataddiction.ny.gov. Growing up as a young kid when addiction was around was tough. It was, at the time, I felt like it was unfair. I had to grow up quick. At the age of 11, my father left the house after, a couple months after I found drug paraphernalia in their nightstand. And it was a tough reality to face as a young kid. And, there were good days and bad days, but there were a lot of bad ones. After my father left, we got kicked out of homes. There were people in and out of my house, and I didn't understand, why did this happen to me? Why did addiction have to be, why did my parents have to be addicted to drugs? Yeah, going through recovery it was a long road. When I was a senior in high school, my mother went away to prison. I had to go through my college recruiting by myself. I had to go off to college. My friends' parents took me to college. And so it was tough going through those times, but When my mom decided that she wanted to change her life, she wanted to get help. You know, my mom got sober in prison. She got out of prison and gave up drugs and regained her relationship with God. My mother works for the church now, and we have a great relationship. I tell her every time I talk to her how proud I am of her and what she's accomplished. You know, she's a tough woman. She's been through a lot, but the things that she's done after prison have been amazing. You know, I'm so proud of her. She got her associate's degree. We have a great relationship. She's a great grandmother to my nieces and nephews, to my children. She's always there for me when I need to talk to her, and we have a great relationship. For a while, it looked like, you know, when you're in it, when you were in the addiction part of it, I never thought my mom would be the same. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can change your life, you can get help, and you can have a better life and regain those relationships and have a positive effect on those people around you. You know, I look at, you know, when I go through tough times in my life, I ask myself, what would my mom do? Because my mom has been through, you know, I always say my mom has been to hell and back, and she's doing great, and I'm thankful for it, and I'm proud of her. My father as well. You know, I didn't have the best relationship with my father. When he left the house when I was 11, he left us with no car. I didn't speak to him for 3 years, and that was probably the toughest time of my life. But we gained that relationship back. My father's been clean for 3 years. His health is doing better. He's trying to be a better grandfather, trying to be a better father. And, you know, I forgive him. And our relationship is, you know, we're back communicating, and I love it, you know. I tell him I'm proud of him as well, because it's a tough circumstance. You know, it's easy to look at someone who's in addiction and blame them, and blame them for the choices they make. But it's the drugs, it's the alcohol that have a hold of them. And it's not, they don't want to be in that position. You have to understand that. They don't want to be making these decisions. They don't want to put these people in jeopardy. They want to get help. But once they decide to get help and to do something about it, there's great things that can happen at the end. Yeah, recovery is possible, and it happens to a lot of people. You know, you'd be surprised at how many people are in recovery right now that went out and got help. People out there that want to help you if you're in recovery. You know, there are people all over who you have no idea went through, they've been affected by it. You know, whether it's a family member, a friend, themselves personally, if they went through addiction. There are a lot of people that are going through issues that you've been through. So don't be afraid to ask for help. There are a lot of resources out there that can help you and get you the right treatment and to get you back on the road to recovery.
For recovery. This show is dedicated to the education and empowerment of all people struggling with substance use disorder. And also, today we're just talking about prevention. This disease does not have to take hold in anyone's life. So we are back with the leaders of Lindy's Youth Care, but now we've switched out. And we have Luke and Vanessa. And we're going to talk about some coping skills for youth, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that, you know, youth of today, you carry a lot more stress, a much bigger burden, certainly than my generation did. So we can always go back, but it's already been proven. You can listen to music, technology, do your homework. You can multitask and use different parts of your brain only because you have the availability to all the technology. So technology is awesome, and technology is not awesome, because it just brings a little too much, I think, to a young developing brain. So from my humble perspective, not seeing kids go out and play anymore because they're on their games, that they're, you know, they're not enjoying being social with other kids, because it used to be, I'm going to ride my bike and we're going to get together and we're going to go out and play. There's no going out and playing, because now I don't ever have to leave my home to talk to my friends, right? So what's some of the coping skills for you guys? What do you want to teach?
Truthfully, I think we find that although we're not as social, I guess, as we could be, we are social in different aspects. Whether it's trying to voice ourselves through social media, a lot of, you could look at it as a positive thing. I guess a lot of people through social media, they kind of express their concerns. As for, I could speak for me, I advocate a lot of things that are happening internationally and globally, and I try to bring awareness to things through social media. So I guess there's that aspect that youth is much more involved in things that I guess maybe in your generation they couldn't have been as involved in.
Correct. Or not that they weren't, they didn't have the platform to do that.
It's much easier for me to voice my opinions about things. And
then the other side of that is, why don't you go kill yourself, because no one in school likes you.
Oh, there you
so
go.
We see, right, we see suicide up in young people dramatically for many different reasons. But that the illusion of social media, that my life is wonderful, but it's really sucks. And that goes for just humans across the board, not just youth, because way too many adults.
Yeah, and that side of the internet emerging culture and how social media, people make their lives look so immaculate and wonderful when really underneath there could be these terrible things happening.
Yes.
Bouncing off what Vanessa said, we could have the internet and be more connected than ever before in like any point in history, where before, let's say you were going through something in your life that was terrible and now you're just secluded in your house. Let's say it's something with your parents, right? You can't just, a lot of people can't just leave, right? Go find someone, but now you're connected to this an amazing group of people, like your closest friends are a click away. So we're really, you could look at a group of people on their phones, on their computers, and see, oh, what's happened to society. But really, we're more in touch with each other than we've ever been.
Okay, that's a great point. And it is, but through, right, texting and words, sometimes you don't feel emotion that's behind that. So I'm sure that you've texted with people and they're like, don't talk to me like that. And you're like, I didn't have an attitude. You know, but it's
have an attitude through text.
Right, but it's how people read it, right? And where they are in the moment in time with their own emotions that they feed off of that. And it causes really unnecessary fighting. Because, you know, now we've shut down, no, that's what you meant, and really, it wasn't. But
it's a lot of, I'd say, almost responsibility for our generation. Like, now that we have this platform, it's up to us what we want to do with it.
Correct.
So we can, like you said, we could use it to make other people feel bad about themselves and try to make ourselves look like this perfect image, or we can be more truthful and do like what Vanessa said she does and advocate for people internationally and educate people on what's going on. So I think it's up to the person what they're going to make of this technology. They can use it to become more connected, or they can use it as an excuse to never be connected with anybody again.
Correct.
And just stay inside.
Absolutely. So really one of the reasons why I do the show too is we can do as many presentations for parents as we want. And unfortunately the same 50 people come out because there's too many people. They'll say they don't have the time, but it's the shame and the stigma that goes along with the disease. And if I go there and I take any literature, then people are going to think that I have a problem at home, because it's not about solving what's going on in my home. It's my illusion that it's more important that my neighbors think that we're the perfect family, when in reality, nobody has that. So especially like we're in the holiday season, right? the holidays are a very difficult time for probably the majority of people as opposed to the minority of people, because everyone has that unrealistic expectation of the Norman Rockwell Christmas, and everybody's going to be perfectly happy and we're going to have the perfect meal, and it just doesn't exist, right? So it gives us an opportunity to be honest with one another, you know? People are pissed off by the time Christmas rolls around. Freaking had to wrap all this crap, shop for it, and they're not even going to like it. So we do it to ourselves. But how can we, I guess, so what do you hear from your friends that they want to do better, to do different, especially when it comes to substance use?
If I could say something on that, I feel as if in regards to just speaking with my friends in general, a lot of them don't feel as if what they say has value. And that's like the biggest thing about youth empowerment, is that we're trying to show that whatever they say can be put into action, but they need to say it. Because how are we supposed to know what they're saying? And I'm just telling you this from my friends. I don't know how maybe other youth communities work to get their voices heard, if that makes sense. I'm sorry.
No, it does make sense, because when I speak to kids, they don't want to hear what an adult thinks that they know what you need. Why don't I just ask you what you need? How can we reach you better?
Exactly.
Because you are tied in to youth. So what I think would work really doesn't matter. It's what you think that knows what will work. Will it work for 100% of the people?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I think one of the best strategies we use is that we kind of try to implement, and we also really attend a lot of things that are student-led. So we can lead an event at our school and say oh, this was part of the Lindy Cares Youth Coalition, or we also attended, like we said, Hugs, and eventually we're going to run that too. And that's basically us. It's when you're hearing it from someone your age, even I can say I think it has more of an effect, because usually there's a stigma oh, there's this adult who's telling me, oh, drugs are bad, I already know that. But if there's someone my age who's telling me, no, really, drugs are bad, and this is what happens and this is what can happen to you, it's there's gonna have more of an effect.
This is what can happen to you, but let me give you some other alternatives to dealing with your stress level, to dealing with not feeling like you fit in, coping skills, that need to want to escape from the problems that are weighing on your mind. Right?
Yeah. At Hugs, we met this coalition, a Northport coalition.
Oh, I was just going to bring them up. They're awesome.
Yeah, they have an event, Mindfulness Monday, where they have a Monday and it's full of different things. They did yoga, smoothies, meditation, and it's a lot of these things that students can go to through the school, not just students from the coalition, any students. They've invited another town to go, and we implemented that in our school as well. So we had Lindenhurst Coalition had their own Mindfulness Monday, and it's because a lot of that drug and alcohol use can come from a place of stress. So if they realize that there are these outlets for stress, it could be very, very helpful and substantial in preventing them from turning to something bad.
I can use myself. You know, when I practice yoga for over 10 years. And when my son passed away, I could have drank. I certainly could have been prescribed whatever I wanted to, because I was under tremendous stress. And people would have given me a pass on that. But I still would have had to sit through everything that I had to feel. And if I hadn't had the ability to go to my mindful place, right, my breathing, and my place that I've learned through practicing yoga, and that's how I handled, because that's the only way that I could do it. So I always tell, there's always another way, and please don't tell me that you have more, because there's stress and there's stress, and there's things that you have to just live with and deal with.
Yeah.
And as long as you're safe and you're home and you can have something to eat and somebody to talk to, you're okay. Not everything needs to be solved in a 30-minute segment, right?
Absolutely.
So you know, it's very upsetting for anyone but especially I think more adolescents haven't built their muscles for dealing with more and more stress, right? So you want something to be fixed now. We need to do it now. When if you could say, you know what, I'm okay. I'm going to pick this up tomorrow. I'm going to get a good night's sleep. Maybe I'll binge eat for a little while and watch Netflix. Nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
It's just, that's an alternative, right? Or go to the gym or do whatever, or just be quiet. So that's what I want to hear. Like, what do kids, what do you suggest to them?
Well, okay, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm taking up all the time. But I feel as if...
She's very pushy, but...
I know.
Right, Luke? So, yeah.
I feel as if we're not taught how to think that way. We're taught that we have to do this homework. We have to stay up until 2 in the morning and get this done, or we won't pass the class, or we won't succeed. But when we take a step back, I have to take a step back sometimes, because it's just so much. It is so much pressure. And I don't know if it's other generations, if it was like this as well, but for us, it's to get into college, and we're doing all of this to get into college. But from there, we don't know what to do. We're in college, and we're like, okay, we have all this stress, and we don't know how to handle it.
So when I speak to parents, because I do hear you, so when I tell them, I go, so you're telling your child community service, they have to have great grades, they're going to go do an SAT class, they have to do their homework, they better be in, honors program, and why aren't you happy? Because this is the best time of your life. How can you even say that? Because what I'd be saying is, this is the best time of my life. I don't really care to know what the rest of my life's going to look like, because I'm not having fun. Mm-hmm. So at 12 years old, to be told their only concern is getting into college, that's not our only concern. Our only concern should be to raise well-adjusted, happy, healthy adolescents that maybe, if they go away to school at 18 or they go to a community college, who really gives a damn, right? Because at some point you'll be 22, at some point you'll be 25, and whether you graduate at 21, 22, or 27, doesn't matter. Where's the rush? So is that a better outlook if you had parents maybe helping you with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think personally, I feel like all of that stress and all of that pressure, I've overcome that because I can say like, take a step back, and I can do that. And I feel like there's maybe it's like, oh, because I'm almost finishing high school, but it's really just like a release of pressure, and I don't need to really worry about that. I mean, as much as I should worry about getting into college, it's not like I don't care, I don't do my homework or anything. I do all of that, but there's that release of pressure, and I feel like through Lindy Cares, it has definitely helped me, and I've like taught my parents, and I've told them, okay, like, this is what I do, and it's a lot, and I've learned a lot from this, and I can teach you guys, and it's just been like overall like helped me throughout the past 2 or 3 years of high school a lot.
That's awesome, but you are probably in the minority, right, of kids feeling that pressure, because I don't understand why you have to have 4 hours of homework a night. I don't appreciate that from a parent's point of view, because you should be able to have, before smartphones, when I left work, people couldn't reach me, and I had to retrain myself. I'm not going to read my emails at night, because I'm not going to get involved with that, because I'm entitled to some downtime, right? So I think we all need to know that we need some downtime and disconnect to reconnect to what's really important to you in your own home, right? Your family, your friends. What do you think, Luke? I'm giving you a break. Vanessa's going to jump right in over you.
No, 100%. Teachers have spoken about times their friends who, of course, they're not teachers, have extra phones for when they get home, they know work's going to call them. So if this phone rings, you have to pick it up. You wake up in the middle of the night, you check your emails. And he thinks it's crazy. These people have they have no free time. Even after they leave work, they're working, what, a 9-to-5 job. You get home, and now it's midnight, it's 3 in the morning, you're checking emails. It never ends. So now you're going from what we're doing, we have our AP classes, our honors classes, we do 4 hours of homework, we get into college, we finish college, doing the same thing there, and now there's still no rest. There's still no when's the break? And
when's the break? When's the break?
That's what we're waiting for.
Exactly.
That's what you're waiting for, and you should be waiting for that. When's the break? There needs to be a break. There needs to be there needs to be a, you know,
and even
time.
during the break, though, we have so much work. I'm gonna speak for ourselves. During winter break right now, I have been constantly working on all my AP homework, and I don't understand that. This is a break. I need to mentally take
You need a vacation, because your teacher is somewhere on a break, right? They're not grading papers, they're not doing all of that, and everybody's entitled to that. More doesn't make it better, I guess is really, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There needs to be downtime. So I think that, let's add that to the list of things to advocate for.
So like one of the outlets that we try to implement to our school is the Youth Summit, which is one day, it's usually in October, usually on the same day. I think it's the day after we have one of those days off, and it's an entire day, like you get to miss school, you're excused, and you have 3 workshops and then like an overall like closing and some like icebreakers, and we try to get the message out to the entire school, and we also like tell them come in with an open mind because it's us leading it, and it's like student led, and we say, oh, like this is what we're gonna do and this is what we're gonna do, and usually people aren't like, they're not used to it. Like we're like used to it now that we've done it like 3 years and we know, but like there's kids who aren't really used to like saying like, oh, like you have your own voice, or you can do this and say whatever you want and try to change whatever you want, and people aren't really used to that, and it's crazy because like you're entitled to
What kind of workshops do you run? So what, give me an idea of the 3 workshops that they had a choice from this year.
Well, for our youth summits, like the idea, like the theme changes every year, and the theme that we focused on in this past October was like youth empowerment along with like self-confidence in being yourself. So one of the workshops that we did is the president and the vice president, I believe, and you also ran this workshop, where they did skits. So basically they had like a mannequin set up, they had like some ideas, and basically the students were just told to do silly things, like awkwardly ask this mannequin out on a date, something that would get you way out of your comfort zone, but you would realize that you could have fun while doing it, and that these people surrounding you aren't making fun of you for doing it, they're laughing along with you. So it was emphasizing the idea that you can be yourself and you can like embrace this awkwardness, especially of coming into the high school. Like if we had some middle schoolers there, learning how like it might be hard to find yourself.
So the biggest thing when kids start to drink is boys wanting to ask a girl out. And if I have a drink, then I let go of some of those, right, inhibitions, and I can be stupid, but I have an excuse for being stupid. So you don't need an excuse to be stupid. It's okay to be stupid. It's okay to act silly. It's okay.
Yeah, it's
called life. It's, you know, let go.
Yeah.
Because nobody else cares the minute that's over, you know?
Yeah.
So
we did.
That's a great skit. I'd love to do that.
Yes.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
If I could add, I feel like the greatest. The Youth Summit was a great reflection of the atmosphere we want in high schools, because Luke and I, we both attended the Youth Summit this year, and it was our first time going, and I think the greatest thing I learned, or I felt when I left, I felt relieved. I really did. I felt so comfortable when I was there. Initially, it was a little bit awkward, as everything is in the beginning.
I think that was the point. I think that was like we're breaking these ideas of what is okay for us to do, and I think that was their goal.
Yeah. And if we could reflect that in high school, the atmosphere of classrooms, and if there isn't this just rigid, I'm going to say atmosphere again, rigid atmosphere of high school, it would be just a place of comfort. And again, that would just reduce stress, anxiety. People would feel comfortable in a place at once. And again, that could tie into substance and drug use.
Absolutely.
It all relates.
It all relates. It's that common thread gets weaved through everything, even with, social anxiety and thoughts of suicide. That goes along, mental well-being and substance use are married to one another always. You're going to always be looking for that next way to feel some kind of relief. So we have to be very mindful of it, because when kids can't get rid of, and when any person can't get rid of what's truly bothering them, they look for the outlet that they don't have to feel anymore, right? So if you could close your eyes and have a typical day in high school, what would that day look like then? I'm going to let Luke talk first.
Okay.
If you really could make your school exactly the way you would want it.
Oh, the way I would want it?
Yeah.
Okay, it starts at 9 a.m., so I get to wake up on my own.
That's also been proven, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That younger kids should be going to school earlier because they do better, and teenagers do better later in the day.
Exactly.
Right.
So I wake up whenever I need to wake up. I show up to school.
All right, well, that's...
Well, I usually wake up on my own at a good time, but I can't speak for
But if
other
you
people.
could start school at 9 o'clock instead
That would
of
be a great time.
7:30.
7:30 in the morning.
Right.
I wake up at
That would be-
5:50 every morning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have double physics in the morning. I don't know. Maybe I could start with simpler subjects. So maybe my electives first. Maybe English and social studies. Save math and science for the end of the day. That would be nice.
Okay.
That's really all I want.
Okay.
Simple.
I know that phys ed and music and art got cut a lot from budgets. So, I mean, I'm giving you the
I'm in
oropportunity to
orchestra,
say.
and we don't even have a room. We're on the stage every single day, and then whenever the concerts the winter concert, for the entire week leading up to it, we're kicked out of our room. So now we're in every other music room in the school for a full week because everyone else wants their turn on the stage. So we don't even have a room. We don't even have a bathroom pass. We had to make one. And then we go to the bathroom. They're like, this doesn't work. So.
But a lot of adults would
imbalance.
look at what you just said, and say, well, that's not a problem. And I tell parents all the time, too, don't think with your adult brain when your 12-year-old comes with you for a problem, because that's their whole world right now. So don't answer them and say, well, that's not a problem, that's no big deal, get over it, because it is their whole big deal. You have to put yourself back to where they were when you were that age, and think with that emotional, right, intelligence. So what, would you want yoga to be taught in school? Would you want a room to have meditation in? Could you imagine if you could have 3 minutes of meditation between every class that you could?
See, I feel like a lot of that, for me personally, I don't get so stressed out in school. It's really when I'm at home and I see everything in front of me kind of building up, that's when I need the time to rest. But when I'm going from class to class,
you're okay.
I'm okay. And if we took time to meditate, I feel like that's just time in the day that we're
burning
wasting.
daylight.
We're wasting time. We're already starting school at 9 in this hypothetical world.
Yes, in your perfect world. And the only reason why you guys start early is because varsity sports, and that needs to be timed for travel and everything else.
Yeah.
So there's other reasons for it. So what else would you really want to work into your day, if you could?
I think in a lot of my classes, there's one class that I really, really like, and the reason that I like it is because it's completely interactive. So it's students talking to students, and the teacher almost like taking a step back and letting us communicate with each other, and then the rest of the classes are people speaking at us. So I think if it was more interactions among the students, we'd not only have a better class, but like a better community. I'd get to know more people. I could connect with people on a different level and like kind of widen my intelligence. So I think that would be very helpful throughout the day.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest problems I've had throughout high school is trying to maintain going to every meeting that I have after school with clubs and making my practice on time. And I wish there could be more time for that. And then I think that would make more people involved, because like one of the excuses like that everyone almost has is I don't have time for clubs, I don't have time for this, or like I also like I have some clubs that are like later at night, which would be really cool because then I wouldn't have to miss practice, and it's kind of just like hard maintaining all of that, but I think it would definitely bring in more people if it were changed.
I think you're absolutely correct, because coaches want you there right after. There's no room, there's no leeway for.
Yeah.
That's where you have to be. You know, and then all the clubs, all the teachers that run those clubs don't want to come back at night.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're being real. But I think that if you're told, if you want it, listen, they get paid to run those clubs, so it's not like they're not making extra money. They're not doing it as a volunteer. And if you're told, you can leave right after school and you're going to come back one day a week at, you know, at 5 o'clock, what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know, you either want to lead that club because you're interested in the subject and you want to create this world with your kids, or you're doing it for the money. So you would weed out a lot of people that do things for the money.
Yeah.
Because I personally find that upsetting as a parent, as a taxpayer, if you're not into it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beat it. You know, it's like having a really old first grade teacher who hates kids.
Yeah.
It's going to make or break your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
And that's not fair.
Yeah, I think that's why the youth communicating with youth is like probably the most important part about our coalition.
I can't believe that went by so fast.
So fun.
So here we have it, the youth of today and the world that they would like to create, and being the highest taxed people probably in the state of New York, let's adults have a voice also, and let's change things for the betterment of our kids. Have a great week, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. That old joke. Thank you so much.
Thank you.